What is up, guys? Mateo's 2020 Politics here, and today we are back to talk about the elections. So, if you haven't seen my video analyzing the presidential election results, go check it out. I uploaded it about 3 days ago. And today my focus is going to be mainly on the congressional races. So, the entirety of the squad has won re-election. So the squad is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley. All four of them won re-election. Now, in addition to this, every single progressive in Congress won re-election. These are Justice Democrats mainly. This is basically an organization that funds progressive, pro-Medicare for all Democrats. Ro Khanna, Mark Pocan, Raul Grijalva, they all won re-election. So that's some great news. The only downside was that many progressives that were running for office that hadn't run yet, they were just running for the first time, lost. So that is definitely some bad news, but I want you to think of it this way. Many progressives were taken as the wrong way, and they're thinking it was a loss. Technically, it isn't a loss because they weren't in Congress yet. So, for example, if we lost an incumbent, so let's say we lost Ro Khanna, that's a net loss. That's a loss because they were in office and they got kicked out. Somebody who was running and wasn't even in Congress yet, if they lost, it isn't really lost. It just isn't a gain either. You didn't lose or gain any progressives. So yeah, I was kind of sad about some of these election results. A couple of them I were expecting. A couple of them I was expecting. So, for example, Shahid Buttar running in California, trying to unseat Nancy Pelosi, staunch progressive, pro-Medicare for all of that. He lost, but, who wasn't expecting it? You're running against the speaker, and even if Nancy Pelosi is wildly unpopular, I think her approval rating is, below Donald Trump's, in the late 30s. I don't know. But she is unpopular, but the incumbent always has the advantage. So when you're on the ballot and you see incumbent Nancy Pelosi, that's probably a name you also recognize, and you see Shahid Buttar, you're probably going to vote for the incumbent who you already know. So I expected that. Also, Paula Jean Swearin running in West Virginia. But, it is West Virginia after all, so what do you expect? So, of course, Jamal Bowman, he won the general election in New York City, or I think it's Westchester County. And Cori Bush, running in Missouri, she just won the general election. And now I did hear that a bunch of House Democrats lost their seats, but they were corporate Democrats, so I really couldn't care less. So, how do I feel about these results? I'm mildly optimistic because we did lose many progressives. Many of them lost who were running for Congress, but of all the incumbents, they won, and even a couple of newcomers won, as I mentioned before, Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman. So yeah, I'd say I'm kind of happy about the results. I'm not like, woohoo, yeah, party. I'm happy about it, I'm on the good side of feelings, which isn't too common in politics, so this is actually a big deal. So, generally I'm a pretty outgoing, optimistic person, but when it comes to politics, I'm the most pessimistic you can get. But I think it's also a level of pragmatism because I understand that the corporate Democrats are nearly, if not as worse as the Republicans. Because with the Republicans, at least they actually follow their beliefs. With the corporate Democrats, they act progressive, but they really are just taking money from Wall Street, and they're just doing all the corporations' bidding. Now, the notion that the reason why House Democrats lost so many seats was because of the progressives, come on, guys. That's just not true. That's just not true. When we look at each political position, the so-called far left's views are actually mainstream. So Medicare for all, its approval rating, I think, is 72%, and that's by a Fox News poll. Even Fox News says that the vast majority of Americans support Medicare for all. A ban on fracking, also the majority. The Green New Deal, I believe 63%. Same thing with legalizing marijuana. Free college, 70%. And this isn't just one outlier. There has not been a single poll that has ever given any of these policies an approval rating of below 50. These polls consistently poll at over 60%. Back in the 90s, the Democrats had the strategy of trying to run to the right. And before that, they were actually progressive. But beginning in the 90s, they were like, okay, how about we try something new? How about we try to run to the right, go tough on crime in an attempt to appeal to Republicans, in an attempt to win them over? And that did work initially. Bill Clinton ran that strategy. He won, then he won again. But then in 2000, you had Al Gore, another so-called New Democrat, who ran those policies. And he lost against a baseball bat. And then in 2004, another right-wing Democrat, John Kerry, ran. He lost again. And then in 2016, the establishment runs Hillary Clinton, and she loses against a reality TV star host. So, I mean, if you're losing against a reality TV host who says racist stuff every single day, then you're pathetic, honestly. Like, why are you running on the right-wing strategy? Nevertheless, if it was proven in 2000 and 2004 that those policies didn't work, that running to the right didn't work. Now, with Barack Obama, that's the exception, because Barack Obama ran on a progressive campaign. You know, it was this hope and change and universal health care campaign. When he was president, did he do those things? No, he didn't give people universal health care. I mean, to this day, 30 million people don't have any health care at all, not even private insurance. And Barack Obama was smart because he knew that the right way to win was to run on a progressive platform. But anyways, no. The notion that the reason why the House lost many Democratic seats was because of progressives is just not true. And just going by the numbers, it proves that it's not true. I mean, you had Amy McGrath, a pro-Trump Democrat, run in Kentucky, and she lost against Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, the guy who had a 37% approval rating, way lower than Donald Trump's. Now, some people are talking about the Arizona Senate race, where astronaut Mark Kelly, I think he's a cool guy actually, ran against Martha McSally and unseated her. She was incumbent. She got kicked out, and by a good margin too. So, with Mark Kelly, interestingly, he was running as a... Is there such thing as a moderate progressive? Because that's what he was. Because he was, I think, on the progressive side of things. I mean, he was running on a no corporate PAC donations campaign, a public option campaign, which isn't enough, but at least it's giving the American people the option to get public health care, single-payer health care. And yeah, he ran, I guess you could say, a progressive campaign, and he unseated a Republican senator. That's what you have to do. You have to run on progressive policies in order to win. And it's proven by the fact that all these progressives, all these incumbent progressives, and even newcomers won, and multiple corporate Democrats lost. And I mean, this was proven back in the primaries as well, back when Jamal Bowman unseated Elliot Engel. I mean, this guy was a 30-year incumbent. He had been in there for 16 terms, and he was a complete war hawk. Like, he was going against the Iran deal and smearing Ilhan Omar after her anti-Semitic comments. And he got his ass kicked by Jamal Bowman by like 10 points or something. And the same thing happened in Missouri when Cori Bush literally defeated a dynasty, because the father had held that seat in Missouri for about 30 years, and then his son, Lacy Clay, held it for 20. He got beaten out by Cori Bush. Then same thing with Marie Newman. I mean, she beat out an anti-abortion Democrat in Michigan. So it's very clear that the right way to go is to the left, because these policies are popular and candidates win on those policies. And on the presidential election, Joe Biden was running against somebody who oversaw the pandemic as president, who had an approval rating of like 42%, basically one of the most vulnerable and easily defeatable presidents in modern American history, certainly in the last 50 years, since at least Gerald Ford. And he narrowly defeated him. I mean, how embarrassing is that? Imagine narrowly defeating Donald Trump. I guarantee you that if Bernie Sanders had been the nominee, he would have crushed Trump. He would have beaten him by like 350 electoral votes on election night, on the night he would have defeated him. But no, instead the establishment had to go with a right-winger, because they thought that was the right idea, to unseat Donald Trump. So I'm hoping that in 2022, more progressives are elected to Congress, more than we've ever seen, because every single year, more and more progressives are elected. Like we just had another AOC-type victory this year with Jamal Bowman. And some people are even talking about AOC running for the Senate. How cool would that be? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running to unseat Chuck Schumer in New York. That's an interesting scenario. Would she win? I don't know. I mean, she has way higher name recognition. She has a much higher approval rating, but he is the incumbent. I have to think about that. Well, anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you all later. Stay progressive.